Hey there. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the topic of compassion, and specifically self-compassion. If you haven't met me before, my name's Allison Velez with winningyourrelationshipgame.com, and I'm going to help you create a relationship you love. So these days, everybody likes to talk about hacks. And one of the best life hacks that you can have, that you can use, is practicing self-compassion. I'm not kidding you now. If you practice self-compassion, you will be better able to handle anything that life throws at you. And if you are committed to change, then you're going to have to manage those personal resources really well. When I say personal resources, I mean those things within you that help you handle what life throws at you. Things like patience and tolerance, those type of things. Now, anytime you want to make some behavior changes, you are going to need to draw on those resources because behavior change is difficult. And when we're trying to think about doing something new, plus take care of all the other things that we already have going on, we need an excess of these personal resources. So any behavior change is going to drain some of those resources. So if you visualize having a container full of personal resources that you carry around with you, and we all have different size containers and we all have different quality of containers as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we always have this container with us, and it's there for us to draw on. Depending on the type of things that we have going on during the day, we may have to draw a lot of those resources. Some days we may only have to draw a little bit. But because we are continuously drawing on them, we have to make sure that we replenish them regularly. So if you keep in mind, your life performance is dependent on these resources. So during times when they're low and you're running low on your personal resources, you will not perform as well as you would when they're at a more adequate level. So to be your best self, you need to maintain your personal resources at the highest level that you possibly can, whether that means slowing down how fast things are going out or increasing the amount of resources that are put in. So the first step in managing those resources well is to be aware of where your level is. Are you at full capacity? Are you feeling full of resources and ready to handle anything that life throws at you? Or are you feeling like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel? And believe me, a lot of people live at that level. So once you increase your awareness of where your level is, you have to know what are the things that increase that level and what are the things that decrease that level. So this is an illustration that I like to use. There's a scenario of mom leaving work, picking the kids up, and getting home to get dinner ready and everything done at night, as moms have to do. So the first version of this, mom had a crappy day at work. She leaves to go pick the kids up, and she's running late. So the school's calling her saying, "Where are you? The kids need to be picked up." There was an accident on the way home, and it's just really frustrating. When she walks in the house, she realizes she forgot to take something out for dinner, so now she's starting from scratch, trying to get the kids fed. So here she is, tired, upset, running late, trying to decide if she's going to order pizza or make grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner for her kids, neither of which she feels great about. One of the kids comes in the kitchen and says, "Mom, come and see what I made at school today." And mom kind of brushes her off and says, "Not right now. I'm busy. Go and get started on your homework." How do you think that child left that situation feeling? Not like they got the best of mom's resources, right? Now, the second version of this story, mom gets off from work. She had a good day. She goes, she picks the kids up from school, everything's smooth. She catches every green light on the way home. When she walks in the door at home, she smells the lovely aroma of the dinner that she put in the crock pot this morning. Now all she has to do is heat up a veggie and dinner is ready, and it's one that she feels really good about. So one of the kids comes in the kitchen and says, "Mom, come and see what I made at school today." And mom says, "Oh, great, sure. Do you need some help with your homework too?" Now, the difference in these two versions is the personal resources that mom brings to the situations. In the first one, Her resources have been drained by all the things that happened. She had a crappy day. There was an accident. She was running late. Da, 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 da. All of those things took a toll on her personal resources. So she was running on the rock bottom when she got home. In version 2 of that scenario, she is overflowing. Her personal resources container is overflowing. She has set herself up to be feeling good about where she is at the end of that day. And when your container is overflowing, you have plenty to give to the people around you. So back to the first step in all of this, which is increasing your own self-awareness. So take a moment to consider your own personal resources right now at this moment. Do you feel like you're at 8 out of 10, 5 out of 10, maybe a 2 out of 10? Wherever you are, it is your own responsibility to manage it from there. So think about the last few days, maybe the last week. Was there a time when you feel like you acted poorly, where you reacted poorly to a situation? Got it? Okay. So think to yourself, where were my personal resources at that time? What was my level at when I had that kind of reaction? If you feel like they were low, can you identify what drained them? Sometimes an event will be so enormous that it drains our resources totally at one time. Sometimes we allow things to be so blown out of proportions that they drain our resources all at once. Most of the time, though, one situation takes a little bit, another situation takes another situation will take a little more, and that's the way that it goes until our day is done. So as I said, once you become aware of your level of personal resources, you have to take charge of it. Once you know, you can't unknow, and when you know better, you do better, right? As they say. So how can you maintain your personal resources at the highest level possible? You must learn to do the things that restores it for you. First of all, there has to be a balance between doing things for yourself and doing things for others. We feel that it's our job to make sure that everyone else is taken care of, and we put ourselves last on that list. And I argue that we need to be higher up on the list at least, because if we don't have it to give, it's not going to be good. We may keep doing it. However, it will be with resentment and not with love and joy in our hearts. So having a program of excellent self-care is the best way to keep your resources high. Now, the pushback I always get, especially from women, is, isn't that being selfish? And we've been taught that being selfish is a bad thing. Being selfish in a way that hurts other people may be a bad thing, but being selfish in a way that keeps you at your best so that you can give your best to others is the most unselfish thing that you can do. As I said before, when your container is full, you can't help but spill it out over everyone around you, and everyone benefits from that. You know, you've encountered these people. They are joyful and happy and loving and giving. Someone with depleted resources is someone who is bitter and resentful. They do things for others, but probably begrudgingly. So the next part of this, which I've alluded to, is making sure that you are keeping your resources high. In order to do that, you have to know, what are the things that fill up my container? So keeping our personal resources at a high level first requires our awareness, it requires our replenishment, and it also requires our elimination of things that drain us. You need to pay attention to your personal resources when you're making behavior change and sticking to a plan. It's hard to resist impulsive or habitual behaviors when your resources are really low. So once you recognize that your personal resources are low, and this is a very personal thing, I will interrupt myself to say, I may need a lot more self-care than the next person. And it's all very individualized, but we all have that knowledge, that deep inner knowing that I talk about sometimes, that tells us what we need. So when we need to replenish our resources, we have to have some ways to do that, both in small, little ways and in big, sweeping ways as well. In our society right now, what do? We work for 50 weeks a year so we can take a 2-week vacation. And that's supposed to be all of the replenishment and self-care that we need, right? Well, that's wrong. We need replenishment on an ongoing basis, and we all have to call our own pace at that. It can be very small, little things. It can be great, big, huge things. But I will tell you that if the more you focus on constant replenishment, the better you'll be able to face all of those things that are going to drain you. Some people feel like when we start talking about self-care, we're talking about going to the spa, getting a massage, getting a pedicure, those sorts of things. And all of those can be self-care. And I know, like, when I go to the hairdresser and she gives me the shampoo and everything, I leave there feeling great. My resources are full. Everybody has something different that works for them. And I encourage you to find those small little things that work for you. One of the things that I used to do when I had my office, I still do actually, but I had a little jar of cream, hand cream, that was really rich and smooth and smelled great and everything. And my hands felt great after I put it on. And so I would just take a little bit of that cream a couple of times a day and rub it on my hands, and that it just felt so luxurious, and it felt so much like I was treating myself. And if I just paid attention and enjoyed it, it actually helped restore, because it made me feel like, oh, I'm important and I'm worth it. And that little bit of self-care went a long way in keeping me able to do the work that I do. Now, lots of people find self-nourishment, self-care in lots of other things. Going outside, being in nature, going to the beach, being in different areas, looking at beautiful pictures. And those are just a few things that might work. I once had someone say, well, I go to buy a coffee and I feel like that's self-care, but I really don't feel great when I'm doing it. So I said, well, you're doing it wrong then. First of all, don't go do something just because someone else feels like it's a self-care thing. If that doesn't turn you on and that's not something you appreciate, then don't do it. If having a cup of coffee feels like a self-care act to you, then you anticipate it. You say, I'm going to get myself a coffee. And you enjoy skipping down to Starbucks or wherever to get your cup of coffee. And you order it and you sip it with mindfulness and with pleasure, just enveloping yourself in the pleasure of that. It can really be a good self-care activity, but only if that works for you. So you've got to find the things that do that for you. Once you find these things that contribute to your personal resources, it is absolutely up to you to incorporate these things to whatever level you need to. So once you know the things that do it for you, it is your responsibility to incorporate as much of those things as you need. It doesn't have to cost money to do that. One of the best things for self-care that I do every day is when I get up in the morning, I sit and have my cup of coffee without any other kind of distractions. I just sit and enjoy and savor that coffee first thing in the morning with the quiet. Now, I'm going to have coffee anyway. I could have it while I'm running around the house doing chores and all of that, but it is a self-care thing for me to just sit quietly and drink that coffee. I could talk for a long time about what we can do for self-care, the things that add to your personal resources, but I really encourage you to find those things and incorporate them. Incorporate them so that you can operate at your highest potential. So the next thing that we have to do is identify what is draining our resources, and is there any way to stop those? Because I look at those as like holes in my bucket. So when I have a hole in my bucket, my resources are draining out of there, and I need to plug those holes up if I can. And like I said, everything that we go through every day can be a drain on our resources. It's going to take a little bit of effort and some of our patience, etc., to deal with. But there are some things that will increase the depletion of our resources. Now, people who work with addictions use an acronym. It's called HALT, H-A-L-T. And this is an acronym for things that cause you to be more susceptible to relapse. Relapse prevention is a habit. It is building a new habit. So when these things are present, you're not as likely to follow your new habit as you would be if your resources were full. So HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And I like to add to that rushing or in pain, because I think that those also take a hit on our personal resources above anything else. So once you hear about those conditions, I bet you can relate to something that you said when you were tired or hungry that you wish you hadn't have said. And if you hadn't been tired or hungry, you probably would have had more control over how you reacted or responded to something. So all of those will cause your bucket of resources to be depleted. Now, if there's any other big stressors that you have going on, let's say you are changing jobs or you have some unresolved childhood issues. Those things could be like holes in your bucket. They could be draining your resources, siphoning them off in a level that you don't really even notice it, but it is a constant drain on your personal resources. So again, once you identify that something is draining your resources, it really is your responsibility to take care of that. If you're hungry, you need to go get something to eat. If you have unresolved issues, you need to get therapy and deal with those things. So to sum it up, you have to be aware of your resources. You have to restore and replenish your resources, and you have to eliminate the drains on your resources. And this is going to be required for you to implement any type of behavior change or something that requires more effort and energy on your part. Now, let's twist this up just a little bit, because I always like for you to look at it from the other person's point of view too. This helps increase your compassion for your partner and allows you to be more empathetic towards them. So your partner also has a container that holds their personal resources. Their container has to be replenished regularly. Their life performance, including their performance with you, depends on these resources. When their resources are low, they're not going to handle things as well as they might at other times. Think back to my mom coming home from work scenario. The child in the story behaved the same in both scenarios. What was different was the mom's reaction to the child, and her reaction was because of the level of her resources that she had access to. So again, looking back over the last few days, maybe the last week, was there a time when your partner did not respond as well as they might have? If you were involved, did you take it personally? Should the child in my story have taken things personally? Is it possible that your partner's personal resources were at a very low level at that moment? If so, do you know what was draining their resources? Do you know what fills your partner's resources up? What makes them feel happy, full, satisfied, overflowing? What drains your partner's container on an ongoing basis? Does your partner have holes in their container that they need some help closing up? If you begin to have empathy for what your partner may be going through, do you think that that might help you not to feel that things are so personal? Because most of the time when you're not handled well, it is because one of these other things were going on. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, in a hurry, or in pain. Now, you can't make your partner pay attention to their personal resources. You can only help and assist if you notice it. But you are 100% responsible for your own personal resources. Having your resources in good order and good levels will help you do good in the world. Being aware of how these levels of personal resources affect you and your response to things, as well as your partner's response to things, can help you from taking things personally. It can help you identify what is the larger issue here. So recognizing that there's other things at play can reduce the potential for misunderstanding. So just to recap, increase your awareness of your own personal resources. Make it your business to keep those personal resources as replenished as you can. Number 3, recognize what is draining your resources and how can I stop the drain. And number 4, recognize that your partner's actions are linked to their level of personal resources as well. If you want to play around with this a little bit more, there is a worksheet for this video. You can download it below. The link is in the description. And you won't regret taking time to learn more about yourself and the way that we work. So I'd love to hear how things go for you. If this is going to help you, you feel, please click the like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video.